Ever feel like you're constantly buying stuff but never actually feeling happier? We get it. That next purchase promises joy, but somehow the feeling fades fast, and we're left with empty wallets and cluttered spaces. What if there's a completely different way to think about money and happiness that doesn't involve shopping at all? The shopping trap we all fall into. Let's be real for a second. Most of us have been there, scrolling through our phones at midnight, adding things to cart that we don't really need. Maybe it's a new gadget, another pair of shoes, or some trendy kitchen tool we'll use once. We tell ourselves this purchase will make us happy, that we deserve it after a long week. And for a moment, when that package arrives, there's this little rush of excitement. But then what happens? A few days pass, maybe a week, and that new thing just becomes another item sitting around. The happiness we were chasing? Gone. This cycle is exhausting, and honestly, it's destroying our budgets. According to recent consumer studies, the average person spends hundreds of dollars every month on non-essential purchases, things that seemed important in the moment but really weren't. We're not just talking about big splurges either. It's the small stuff that adds up. The coffee shop runs, the impulse buys at checkout, the subscriptions we forget we're paying for. Before we know it, we're wondering where all our money went and why we still don't feel satisfied. Discovering Japanese minimalism. A different philosophy. So here's where things get interesting. There's this whole philosophy from Japan called minimalism, and it's not what you might think. We're not talking about living in an empty white room with nothing but a futon and a plant. Japanese minimalism is actually about something much deeper than just getting rid of stuff. It's about understanding what truly adds value to our lives and letting go of everything else that's just taking up space, both physically and mentally. The Japanese have this concept that's been around for centuries. They believe in surrounding themselves only with things that serve a purpose or bring genuine joy. Not the quick dopamine hit kind of joy from buying something new, but real, lasting contentment. Think about traditional Japanese homes for a moment. They're clean, organized, and peaceful. Every item has its place and its reason for being there. Nothing is random or excessive. This approach creates a sense of calm that's hard to find in our cluttered, consumer-driven world. What really struck us about this philosophy is how it challenges everything we've been taught about happiness and success. Western culture often tells us that more is better, that we need the latest and greatest to be happy, that our worth is somehow tied to what we own. Japanese minimalism flips that completely on its head. It suggests that less can actually be more, that simplicity creates space for what really matters, and that true wealth isn't about what's in our closets, but what's in our experiences and relationships. Now let's talk about the money part, because this is where Japanese minimalism becomes incredibly practical. When we stop using shopping as a source of happiness, something amazing happens to our finances. It's not magic, but it sure feels like it sometimes. The simple act of pausing before every purchase and asking ourselves whether we truly need something or if it genuinely adds value to our lives becomes a powerful filter. Here's what happens in practice. Before adopting this mindset, we might walk into a store or browse online and see something that catches our eye. Within seconds, we've convinced ourselves we need it. With Japanese minimalism, we introduce a waiting period. We sit with the desire for a bit. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week. During that time, we ask ourselves some honest questions. Will this item serve a real purpose in our daily life? Do we already own something that does the same job? Are we buying this to fill an emotional void or because it genuinely improves our quality of life? Research shows that people who practice mindful consumption spend approximately 30 to 40% less on non-essential purchases compared to those who shop impulsively. That's a huge difference. Imagine what you could do with that extra money. Build an emergency fund, take a meaningful trip, invest in experiences rather than objects, or simply have less financial stress weighing on you every month. But it goes even deeper than just spending less. Japanese minimalism helps us see through marketing tricks that constantly push us toward buying more. We become aware of how advertisements create artificial needs, how sales create false urgency, and how comparison with others drives unnecessary purchases. Once we see these patterns, they lose their power over us. We're no longer easily swayed by every promotion or trend that comes along. The mental shift that changes everything. The real transformation, though, isn't just about the money saved. It's about the complete mental shift that happens when we stop equating shopping with happiness. This might sound dramatic, but it genuinely changes how we move through the world. We start noticing things we never paid attention to before. The satisfaction of a home that feels peaceful rather than chaotic. The freedom of having fewer decisions to make each morning because our closets aren't overflowing with choices. The relief of not constantly thinking about the next thing we want to buy. There's actual science behind this too. Researchers studying consumer behavior have found that the anticipation of buying something often feels better than actually owning it. That's why we get so excited before a purchase, but then feel let down afterwards. It's called the hedonic treadmill, and it keeps us constantly chasing the next high. Japanese minimalism helps us step off that treadmill entirely. Instead of seeking happiness in acquisition, we learn to find it in appreciation of what we already have. Living with intention instead of impulse. What we've learned from Japanese minimalism is that it's really about living with intention rather than impulse. Every choice becomes deliberate. When we do decide to buy something, it's after careful thought, and because of that, those purchases bring actual satisfaction. We're not accumulating stuff mindlessly anymore. We're curating our lives to include only what matters. This intentional approach extends beyond just physical items, too. It influences how we spend our time, who we spend it with, and what activities we choose to engage in. We become protective of our space, both physical and mental, because we understand that clutter in any form drains our energy and resources. A cluttered home leads to a cluttered mind, and both make it harder to focus on what we actually care about. People who've embraced this lifestyle often talk about feeling lighter, not just because they own less stuff, but because they're carrying less financial burden and less mental weight. There's something incredibly freeing about knowing you're not trapped by your possessions or by debt from buying things you didn't really need. Statistics from financial wellness studies show that people with simpler lifestyles report lower stress levels and higher overall life satisfaction compared to those caught in cycles of consumption and debt. Practical changes that actually work. So, what does this look like in everyday life? It starts with small, manageable changes that build over time. We begin by looking at our current spending patterns honestly. Where is our money actually going? Those subscriptions, those frequent small purchases, those sales we couldn't resist. We're not judging ourselves harshly here, just observing with curiosity. Then we start implementing simple practices. Before buying anything non-essential, we wait. Just 24 to 48 hours can make a massive difference. We also start regularly going through our possessions and letting go of things that no longer serve us, not in a stressful purge kind of way, but thoughtfully and gradually. As we clear physical space, we often find mental clarity follows. Another powerful practice is expressing gratitude for what we already own. This sounds simple, but it's transformative. When we appreciate our current possessions, the urge to constantly acquire new ones diminishes naturally. We realize we actually have enough, sometimes more than enough. This realization is both humbling and liberating at the same time. A better relationship with money and life. Looking back, stopping the habit of shopping for happiness and embracing Japanese minimalism wasn't just about fixing a budget, though it definitely did that. It was about developing a completely different relationship with money, possessions, and what actually creates a fulfilling life. We're not perfect at this, and we don't need to be. It's an ongoing practice, a way of thinking that keeps evolving. The beauty of this approach is that anyone can start today, right now, with whatever situation they're in. We don't need to own nothing or live in stark spaces. We just need to become more aware, more intentional, and more honest with ourselves about what we are seeking when we reach for our wallets. Real happiness isn't waiting in a shopping cart. It's already here, in the simple, uncluttered moments we create when we stop chasing and start appreciating. And honestly, our bank accounts have never looked better.